Hello, everyone, and welcome to RITP podcast. Today, I have a special guest here with me, Dr. Courtney Boitano. Dr. Boitano has been a practicing OT since 2007. She's currently the capstone coordinator at San José State University in San Jose, California. Her primary practice area is pediatric and school-based practice. She is also the owner of OT Outside and works with children in private school in their homes. I am so excited to bring you Courtney here, and we're going to be chatting about the experiences that I had with her. I got to be special guest lecturer in her class and brought RITP to San Jose State students. And I want her to come here and for all of us to talk about as OTs, how we can bridge that gap for students and give them the education that they need so that they can bring this practice in a more functional state and an activity of daily living and classrooms and at home. So I'm very excited to have Courtney come here and introduce herself, and we'll get to chat along. Okay, Courtney, thank you so much for coming in here. Can you share a bit about your journey from clinical practice to academia?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's so fun to be here with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated from USC and immediately went into school-based practice. And I've just loved working with kids and really seeing them from their time, whether it's as babies and then as they grow through the lifespan. And I've continued practicing, seeing kids privately. When I stepped back from school-based OT and now see kids in private schools, which is nice to be able to provide those services where they might not otherwise be getting them. But I stepped into academia just on a whim. I moved up to the Bay Area and was wondering if San Jose State needed any adjunct faculty. And sure enough, they did. So I've been here for 6 years and only about 3 years ago started the OTD program. So I teach, as you mentioned, our pediatric clinic that we have here on campus, where we have kids and their families come onto campus one day a week. Another day we go out to a private school nearby so that the students get some school-based experience. I also teach some of our community-based courses, taught a variety of our courses here at San Jose State. But I love that balance of still being able to work with kids and then be able to teach that next generation of OTs. It's been fun, especially to bring in guest lecturers like we had you come onto campus.
Yeah. I was really excited when I got the invitation, of course, because that is something that I always wanted. I'm an alumni at San Jose State University. That's where I got my OT degree. I've seen the need of bringing additional training. As you know, we didn't learn about any reflex integration work, or we covered maybe 3 reflex. I remember Moro, I remember ATNR, one lecture,
Yeah,
and maybe paragraph.
absolutely.
Because I remember my pediatric class a lot more. That was something I was interested in. And bringing that back, it was always been my desire. So when I got your invitation, I was so excited, especially to start getting the conversation going and how it relates to functional skills. And I was so excited that you saw that and
Yeah.
you make the invitation. So can you speak a little bit about how that came about? Yeah.
Well, I love this story because it all happened listening to the podcast that you did when you were interviewed. It was OT Schoolhouse, right? That you were
Right.
on,
Yes, I
and
did.
shout out to Jason. And so I was listening to that, and I had one of your books, the Moro Reflex book,
Mhm.
the yellow one behind you.
Yeah.
And I've had it for years, and I, pass it on to families. I use the exercises, and I was so excited to listen to your podcast. And I share podcasts with the students to augment their learning. And it really complements, like you mentioned, in the pediatric class here at San Jose State when they do that movement competency, where they're really understanding that kind of natural progression of movement.
Yeah.
And so I like to connect with people too, and I like to be a connector. And so I went to your website and I was like, gosh, I remembered that we worked together at
Yes.
I was like, I wonder if Kokeb's still in the Bay Area. And that's just how it happened, kind of again on a whim of emailing you. And we just got the conversation started. And I was so grateful that you wanted to do that and came out then to our clinic. And it was such a great opportunity for the students to really get that hands on learning from you. Here they have a client that comes to our pediatric clinic and to be able to learn from you in the moment of seeing how you go about, doing that brief screening of the reflexes and then all through functional play and the just kind of natural activities that kids are doing, you were able to help kind of bridge that gap for the students. And we did it early enough on in the semester that then it was great to then be able to take that and continue to build on their exposure each week that they were working with the clients. So I just love that story that it came all the way from us working together back in, what was that, like 2013, 2014, something like that.
Well, just before, I think 10 or 11, just before I think I left when I got pregnant, right? My son. Yeah. I remember that. I remember that when we both started our practice, I think. Private practice. I already started my practice.
Yeah.
Wow, it's great. And then do you see the students? Because since then I didn't go back and I'm only in contact with one of the therapists, one of your students. Are they able to, use the books because we left resources
Yeah.
for them, right? So are they like going back and
Oh
getting
my goodness. It was so great to see. Almost, I have them check out
Yeah.
item books and you left the game. So I know every week the students were checking out the books, they were checking out the game that you left, that memory game to work on the reflexes through movements and play. They were doing it not only with their individual clients, but then in small group at the school. So it was so fascinating to see their application of it. And not only just as a tool to use, but to really help them understand
Yeah.
the role the reflexes play. And then you could see their knowledge and awareness to be able to see those retained reflexes come about in those activities of daily living that the kids were just doing naturally. So it really was helpful for their learning. And I could see it really contribute to their understanding of the human body and kids and how it impacts what we're doing each day.
I love that. I feel like it was a great place to start. I know they don't have that much hands-on experience, but the timing of it and the class that I went right when they're actually working with their clients, that makes a difference instead of like a theory,
Right.
and being able to use it directly with their clients. So what do you like? I know this is open conversation, but what do you envision? What's your hope for students? Because right now, I know none of us were taught this at school.
Right.
So we are learning. And my vision and my hope is to bring this universities, like therapists, OT should be trained if they want to specialize in pediatrics. I know there's so many areas that OTs can go and they can't all learn this. But if they want to specialize in pediatrics, if this is something they want to learn. So one of the things is that we were not taught reflex integration or even have the knowledge back then to know what to look for. And for me, I started after I became a therapist, maybe 2006 or so. I didn't know where to begin. It was just overwhelming. And that's when I learned outside and then start to bringing in into my OT practice and trying to figure out to bridge the gap between, okay, I understand it, but then how does that affect function? And luckily, we got to create a reflex integration through play and to help other therapists. But I think the goal should be now we're trained in our program, for instance, we train a lot of therapists practicing for 20 plus years. We have amazing therapists who come in, they are open to learning, they're putting this in practice. But there's also a need to start from the beginning, especially OTs. If they want to specialize in pediatric, then we should give them the education. So as a professor right now, for you doing this, like how do you think we can do this? Or what's your vision or your passion or your thoughts?
I think RITP has made it so tangible because, as you mentioned, there are two classes in our curriculum that it gets touched upon, OT through the lifespan And then the pediatric class, especially as we're talking about that natural movement progression that we all go through. And when you look back at the importance of reflexes for babies in utero, and then see that functional application that you've created, it really does make it tangible for students as we've brought it into the pediatric clinic where they're getting that hands-on experience. It really creates that through line for the students to learn about it in theory, learn about it through that movement competency and kind of
Yeah.
understanding the natural movement progression, then being able to see it tangibly applied to a child who's having some difficulties, whether with a diagnosis, without a diagnosis. I mean, there's the multitude of ways that the reflexes are impacting development and functional engagement. It's been great to then see how to apply it and get that eye for when we see those retained reflexes, what to do about it. What I have really liked about it and how we can see it being beneficial to students is that it does take that theory into practical application. Because when I first learned about it, and it was in working with you and Myron, because both of you have experience with reflexes. And I had heard about it, but same that you said, and had never really learned about it. And I tried to go down the rabbit hole of learning about it. It did just seem kind of lost in the theory. I didn't know how to make it functional, and I didn't know how to do it so it wasn't just passive. And that's what I think is key for students is taking it from that theory and passive to active, where the child can really be that active participant. So it's not something that's done to them, but
Yeah.
they are an agent in it, which we always loved as
Yeah.
OTs. And so I think to see that growth in students where you could see their eyes light up of that aha moment really is that missing piece in education of where we talk about the theory, but then getting to that aha moment where they can see how I would actually use this with the client. I could see how I would actually use this in a treatment plan and in session with them. So it was really great to have you come and then see, okay, where we do talk about it in our curriculum, but then how we can practically apply it and provide those opportunities for students to get that hands-on experience.
Yeah. It's very exciting to continue talking to one of the therapists. She's a therapist, right? She's becoming a therapist.
Yeah.
For us to start, we're now thinking about how do we create a bridge program for students? Because for me, and I don't know if you started with pediatrics right after graduating, but you need an additional training, almost like I needed a supervisor or a trainer who can continue to train me afterwards when I started as pediatrics, because you don't know anything when you come out. That's the truth, right? Like you have the degree, but
Yeah.
you really don't have anything besides that. And one of the gap that I saw, I was hoping to create is a bridge for the therapist. What can we train them ahead of time? Well, they still have being trained by the professors and school, and they still have the practicums, and then they having the clients, and then still when they come out, they still have the program with us inside our program. So we are coaching them, mentoring them until they get their first or second job, but they're not alone. And then they can carry out their training process. It's not just here's your license and you're an OT, and then you have to start over learning whatever job that you get. And then you relearn on the job. So skill building, even any of the therapists come in, I'll tell them, I just need you to start getting it. Once you get it, you refine your skill later. So that comes with time. So we are piloting that program, which I'm super excited with San Jose State. And from your experience training OTs, especially OT students, what do you feel like are the need for them, like to transition out, not
Yeah.
just get their license, but to transition out to being successful in what they do? What are the holes for them?
I love the opportunity that this kind of bridge program provides in building their confidence, right? Because I think that's a common thing that we hear. And I mean, we know, even though, like you said, you're a new grad, you don't know very much. I think we know a lot, but looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't see. But what a great opportunity for them to be able to do this with additional mentorship. And I bet it would increase their confidence. I would expect that to be an outcome too, of feeling like, okay, this is something I've spent some extra time doing, like a fellowship. I've spent some extra time doing this. I have an extra step of confidence that I have this mentorship, because it is a tough transition to go from school, where you're a sponge soaking it all in, field work, where you get some hands-on experience, and then you're just let out into the world to manage your caseload on your own. So to have that bridge of having an additional step of mentorship, I think is so valuable in that. What a nice segue from school to field work to practicing, to really have that mentorship and to be able to bring that extra knowledge, but then still have that kind of problem solving and be able to try some things out, but then have a mentor to go back to and continue that rich problem solving.
Yeah. Oh, good. And then I know this can be a controversial topic with the OT world. And again, when the first time with OT starts to hear about reflex integration, the way they were hearing it, the pipeline of the knowledge was coming in was from a very passive way implementing. And now the hope is giving them a bridge to understand, no, this is actually functional based. We can implement this. You can see it all the time in a play based, functional based. What would your advice be for other OTs, like the seasoned OTs who've been in the practice? Because sometimes you can see some people get stuck. And it's a new trend that's coming. I'm like, that's not really new. It's actually not new. For a long time, we just did not get to us, maybe in the way we understand it. What would you say to them to kind of open up their mindset in their mind?
As we have gotten more evidence-based as a field and a profession, and really looking at like, okay, what are some of the best practices? What I go back to is, it might not be a randomized controlled trial yet that's backing this. It might not be peer reviewed, but like many of the interventions that we have in our back pocket, if it works for one child or family, and it's not something that is going to do any harm, it is only going to contribute to their quality of life, especially the way that you've presented it and created this. It's become a form of connection for the parent with their child. I have so many who have gotten the game, the matching game, and they can do it with their child. And it's increased their understanding of the human body and the way they can support their child. And it's so fun for the kids to do it too, right? And I think that alone has so much value, that connection that it can provide, not even just for a caregiver and a child, but for a therapist and the child to have another way to get them to move their body in a fun,
Yeah.
play-based way. We can also then contribute to the evidence, right? The more that we are using this and seeing the benefit and seeing the success, each of us as OTs need to keep advancing the profession and contributing to that base of knowledge. So even though it might not be there in history, we need to keep progressing our profession. It's exciting to keep going back to that tangible aspect of reflex integration through play, because it really does make it tangible for the therapist, for the student, for the caregiver, for the teacher. Having teachers integrate these movements, as you've seen at school, transforms a classroom.
And when I first was trying to bring this on, even in the schools that I work, it was, of course, people like the concept. What is this? It's like a new thing. We don't understand it. The way I went about it is like, okay, you know what I need to do is give result. So when I give result, they're most likely to listen, which
Right.
is kind of what's happening. It's like you try it, wait, it's working. Then the question can be, why is it working? What are we looking at? I'm hoping people will see it's a deeper understanding of how the body moves. So the more the therapist understands how the body moves, the better their treatment plan will be. You can actually name it, understand it. You understand what the challenge is right there as you're looking at it. It's exciting. I'm very excited about it and being able to work with students early on. This is going to be, I think, what we can contribute because eventually, I mean, I do believe like in 10 years or 20 years is going to be so common and the research will come. And it takes time. So we can't just wait
Right.
until the research come. And then the kids we are working with right now are growing up. So we need to still do some kind of intervention that can help them. So this is going to be exciting.
One thought just came to my mind because I was using the game with a kiddo yesterday. And before, if we did see a challenge, like you just said, this made me think of it, coordination delay or difficulty, we might go with there's something happening with coordination. This helps us name it. We were doing the game and it was the head pendulum. So difficult, right? And you could just
It's
see
so simple too. It's just
him.
simple activity, but it makes you see.
This child was not able to stabilize and only move the head. And so then it helped me dig deeper rather than just being like, there's a coordination. I was able to then pinpoint the reflex that is driving this. And then it helps create that missing link to then go further. And rather than shooting arrows in the dark, we could be more precise about future interventions and the whole host of, and we could be working on this and we could be working on that. So it unlocks what else is going on and what else we can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great tool. And to be able to provide that missing link is
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yes. We definitely have to talk offline too about like how we can bring this more and the schools. I'm definitely dedicated to that. And of course, San Jose State, since it's my school, but even all the new OTs come in to the field and PTs, we have PTs and SLPs are using it, which is exciting. We're getting more speech and articulation because they're using movement based, like just talking.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting that we can be part of this journey. We'll see what's going to bring.
Yes, I'm excited.
You still see clients privately,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Is it just in the Bay Area, one-on-one or?
Yeah. So I'm here in the Bay Area and I do one-on-one groups. And as we briefly mentioned, I go into private schools, which is great. I started working with some kids and, we want kids to be able to have after school extracurricular activities. And so I found that many of these schools were like, yes, please come, and parents too, please come work with them at school because they spend so much time there. That's where a bulk of the challenges are. And so many teachers don't know what to do. So to be able to provide that therapeutic value, not just to the child, but to the teachers as well, that's also now developed into in-services and being able to give that knowledge to so many people working with the child throughout their day.
Yeah.
But then also still be able to provide some support to caregivers. And so I see kids at home, at school, in groups, lots of social groups. We're seeing so many of those challenges that kiddos are having now. I think especially post-pandemic, we're all still seeing the repercussions of that. So it's been great to keep practicing a bit, to really have those hands-on examples to be able to bring to the students about what is happening for kids now.
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll leave your information in the show notes here. So if people want to get a hold of you or work with you, if you're open to that.
Yeah, that'd be
And
wonderful.
is there any advice you want to give OT students? Because this kind of training was not wide known yet,
Right.
especially in the school. You are the first university level instructor bringing this now to the universities. It's going to require them to actively searching for this.
One of the biggest takeaways I try to impart on students is the power of observation. And I think having you come and working with you really helped solidify that so much because that's what we have to do, right? We have to just observe first. And that's one of the hardest pieces, I think, for all of us as OTs, because we're helpers. We want to help and we want to fix, but just resting in that observation at first, sitting with it, reflecting on it leads to just so much. So the power of observation, not just for reflexes, but for
Sure.
everything as we work with our clients of all ages. I think we all see the value of guest lectures and partnerships. But like I've said previously, that missing link, the more we can find that missing link between theory to knowledge and practice and can give that experience for our students, that's what they're going to take with them into practice. That's what they're going to remember 10 years from now. So I love to give that hands on and to find these different innovative ways that we can provide that experience for students is really exciting. And hopefully will help them just continue to advance our profession.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you are interested to learn more about what Courtney does, look at the show note below. We'll have her site linked for you. Before we wrap up, if you're looking for a program that is more holistic, that teaches you not only the academic and the theory, but teaches you how to implement, problem solve, work in a community, and continue to work your clinical skill and grow your business in the meantime, make sure that you check out the link below to learn more about the RITP certification program. See you next time.